our good days are actually an offshoot of the bad days. In fact, our good days are good because we've had bad days. And so that
Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Become Successful with Dr. Yemi Osho. And this is a channel where we bring inspiring stories to you. We These stories are meant to elevate you and also inspire you in your own life journey. With me, I have another important personnel. Her name is Mrs. Oreofeoluwa Adegbo. I think I got that pronunciation.
Adegbo.
Adegbo. Adegbo.
Adegbo.
Oh,
Yeah, short for Adegbo Bani.
oh, Adegbo Bani. That's a powerful name.
Yeah.
She's an author, educator, content writer. She's a voice over artist, teen counselor, and speaker. Please make welcome our speaker and our interviewee for this morning. In a very few lines, you may want to introduce yourself, and so that our audience can know who is speaking to them. Go ahead, Mrs. Oreofe.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. My name is Oreofeoluwa Adegbo. I don't have to say much about what I do because I feel like a lot have been said already about me. But in few words, I am God's girl. I'm a lover of Jesus. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm an educator, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, sir.
Glad to have you here, man. So going through your profile, I saw Rebuild Sisters. Do you want to talk a little, just give us a brief about that Rebuild Sisters?
Uh, the Rebuild Sisters Network is a community of young ladies. It was a vision that God gave to me when I was in my service year. I I had some encounter, a personal encounter with some students in the school where I served that year, and it was a case of two lesbian girls that were caught in the act, and it was really messy. And since then, God had placed this burden in my heart about doing something, especially that has to do with youth and teenagers. And so from there, I started paying more attention to teenagers and to youths, especially young sisters. And so the vision actually started as the Rebuilt Girls Network. So it was initially a girls thing, it was initially a teenage community, but with time, God expanded us, and we decided not to just mentor teenage girls, but to also include young ladies. So the first year that we had our conference, it was the Rebuilt Girls Conference, and that was in year 2020. So, but in subsequent conferences, we had the Rebuilt Ladies Conference, but then we also ensure that we involve the teenagers as well, so that they do not miss out. So we decided to change them to the Rebuilt Ladies Network, so that this is a community that encompasses both teenage girls and young ladies. So that was how it started, and so far God has been helping us. Our vision is to build teenage girls and young ladies into women who would grow up to become an agent of positive influence for God in their family, their community, and their nation at large. So, God gave me that idea of a rebuild from the book of Nehemiah, chapter 8. The book of Nehemiah is all about the story of Jeremiah rebuilding the wall. So the concept, the brain behind the Rebuilt Ladies Network is that we are a work in progress. We are like a wall, or like a city that God is trying to build. And we know that in the process of building, a lot of things happen. You have to get cement, get block. You have to pull down if necessary. You have to build up if necessary. And so, rebuild in simple terms means building. What we do in the community is building, nurturing, helping, ladies, helping teenagers in their relationship with God, in the aspect of praying, in the aspect of studying God's word, and of course close mentoring. We have a community of close to 250 sisters, teenage girls and young sisters, and amongst them we have about 25 who are admin and mentors who oversee the affairs of ensuring that we do the work that God has given unto us to do.
Okay. Now, for the sisters you're talking about, I know you've talked about the teenagers. What is the age range of the sisters in the group?
There's really no age range as long as you're not married. Single
Oh, as long as you're
sisters.
not married. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, so I heard you say that during your service here, you encountered these lesbians, teenagers, and that led you to
Yes.
this. So I don't think that may have been all, because I presume that there are many things that you have seen during your service here that was not right, but you just
Mm.
decided this is what you are going to go after. Is there something more to just those teenage
Okay, sir.
lesbians and stuff?
I think I have to do a little background story of about me. So, while I was in the university, I graduated from the University of Ibadan. I studied linguistics. While I was in the university, I had some, I don't know, maybe in the course of the interview we'll get there. I had some family severe, would I say severe family peculiarity. Yeah, at the point when I was about to get admission, my dad got involved in a fatal motor accident. It was ghastly, about 28 passengers. It was a write-off. Two space bus collided and everybody in the bus died, except my dad and the driver.
Hmm.
So, and of course, when they rushed them to the hospital, the driver gave up, on the spot, leaving my dad out of 28 passengers. He was the only survivor. And so at that point, I just got admission to university, but I had to post everything about my life, which, of course, a little about this, my story was one of the things that inspired me to write my latest book that I wrote last month when I clocked 30th, when life happens to you. And so it seemed like my life was on a halt and so many things were not going. I came from a home where my dad loved education. My dad wanted to sponsor me. He didn't care if I wanted to do PhD in his house. My dad loves, that when a child is focused, goal oriented, and you're not distracted. And so I got admission to study mass communication in Obafemi Awolowo University, but that had to go because my dad was fighting for his life, and the whole family was destabilized already. And so it was a case of we're talking about your dad's life. Admission is, so I had to let it go. And that, so by the time I got admission later, 2 years later, into University of Ibadan, my mom, wonderful woman, God bless her, with the help of my mom's siblings that stays abroad, always supportive, but that woman was doing a lot. Of course, my dad's situation now, we're spending a lot on medical bills, physiotherapy, caregiving, and so it was overwhelming for my mom. As I just chose that I wasn't going to bother this woman. So throughout my 4 years in the university, whatever she gives me, that's what I take. I do not ask her for anything. I do not ask her for anything. And so because of this, I now had to look for a side job. I had to look for a side hustle job. I started working second semester in 100 level. and I worked till I finished 200 level. I couldn't work in 300 level because 300 level was a lot and I needed a break. But then I did business in 400 level. So 200, 300 level was the only level in school that I didn't work or do business. And so it was in the process of trying to find something to do to support myself in school that I ventured into part-time teaching. Now the name of the school back then, Fort Man International School. The name of the school is no longer even in Nigeria. So just saw me as this passionate young lady that has that just wants is looking for a legitimate source of income. He interviewed me, saw that he was skeptical. I mean, taking a student, not a graduate, but when he interviewed me, okay, I probably wasn't that bad, and so I got the job. And as I was paid, I think, close to 15,000 naira. I'm talking about year 2014. So that Nigeria naira was very good then. So that was more than enough to sustain me through the month. So that was how I ventured into teaching. And in the process of that, I don't know what these kids saw in me. I don't know what I just find out that many of them want to confide in me. They want to tell me things. And I think one of the burden that God initially placed in my heart was whenever I talk to these kids or whenever they speak to me about pretty serious issues in the home, the first thing I ask is there anybody you've spoken to? Is there anybody you can talk to? And 99% of the time I get a negative response. And so it seems like to me like these teenagers are surrounded by so many people, yet there is nobody that they can talk to. So I think that was where the passion, came from. The passion was birthed from there. And, since then, God had been dropping the ideas of, mentoring and counseling teenagers in my heart until, when I now went for service here and the issue that happened because they embarrassed the school authority embarrassed those girls. I was nearly teary. It was a gory sight. They stripped them off. Something in my heart felt like this is wrong. Two wrongs don't make it right. This is not the solution. But I was just a young girl. What could I do? I just had to. And I think that scenario was the straw that broke the camel's back in my heart. And I knew that I had to launch out and do something about reaching out to teenagers and young ladies.
Yeah, interesting story. Because I have this analytical mind, and I can tell that it's not just one-off event that usually leads to anything. So walk us through your background. Where were you born? And your you know certificates. I mean, what's your educational background, basically?
Okay, I was born into the family of Pastor and Mrs. Ibeola Adosho. So I was born in Ilorin City. I'm the firstborn of four girls. And so my dad got had a leading to move to Ibadan, for God's work. And my mom also got a transfer. My mom is a teacher. She got a transfer to start teaching with Oyo State government. And so we had to relocate to Ibadan. So I went to Buffalo Primary School and then went to Wonderful Counselor International School. And it was at Wonderful Counselor International School. Ironically, I spent just 1 year there because I spent all my primary school in Buffalo Kids School. But Wonderful Counselor International School was the place where I spent primary six because my parents were relocated. So, it affected my education a bit and I had to retake the final year in primary school. And it was there that, our proprietor, I mentioned in my book, When Life Happens to You, that it was my proprietor in primary school that actually discovered that I had the gift of writing. And so it was at that school at the age of 10, I wrote my first story, Train Your Child in the Way That It Should Go. And so my provider was so, I didn't know it was a big deal back then. I was just a young child, doing our own thing. And, I don't know how we got in touch with this particular magazine, local magazine. They came to our school, brought lights, brought everything. They dressed me up, they interviewed me, and so I wrote my first story at the age of 10. But
Mm.
maybe we'll get there later. Life happened, and for a long time I wasn't writing until God intervened, and I'm doing what I do today. Praise God.
No, I want us to go there. What is that life happen? Let's go there. Let's go there. Take us there.
Okay, so like I said, my dad's incident, I was 17 when my dad's accident happened. When you're this girl that you have a beautiful and bright future ahead of you, the thought of going to university to go and chase your dreams. I was that kind of girl that I was not even really, I wasn't sure that I was even going to get married, but I've always been goal driven. I've always been, very focused. I'm not too bothered with distractions and fun. I'm more about the person that sets a goal and wants to achieve that goal. So,
Mm.
and when my dad's incident happened, every money that had been saved for me going to school, everything, you understand, Sana, everything had to be diverted into taking care of my dad. And where we spent close to a year in UCH that year. And my sisters had to go to school, so I was the only one with my dad. And because I even had to, I decided to just retry jam that following year. So I'll be at jam tutorial in the morning. From there I'll go to the hospital in the afternoon. That's where I slept for several months. I did my birthday, my Christmas, New Year, everything there. And now and then we're discharged, we're told to go home and prepare for surgery. And that was it. When you're this girl that you have a goal ahead of you, and all of a sudden it's like something is happening, and everything, I'm confused. I was young. I was, what will happen to me? What will happen to all the good plans that my dad had for me and my siblings? But God had his own plans. God knew that no matter what happened, I wasn't going to be stranded. It was just an incident in my life that, God used to teach me a hard lesson, because it made me wise up very early. I had to start taking responsibility for myself and my siblings early, try to relieve my mom. Being a firstborn, I had to be an emergency and assistant mom. It was overwhelming, but I realized that God was drilling me, was using all those time to, train me and drill me and stretch me. And I give glory to God for those times. So after I left primary school, I went to secondary school. I went to more like a federal school, Obabas Grammar School, and then after which I also changed to a private school, OVIC, Olayomi Ivy International College, which was where I wrote my WAEC and you know did well. It was my first WAEC and first jam that got me admission into AU. It was the first.
Mm.
That year I prepared. My dad does not believe in a child staying home after secondary school. He would often tell people, what for? Why waste away? Once you're done with secondary school, proceed to the higher institution. And so I wrote the jam, I passed. I did WAEC, I passed. I did post jam, I passed. I got admission. But the devil had his plans, but we thank God because God also had his plans too.
Wow. Great story. But one thing that you also have to realize, those are the things that have made you a deep thinker. If you don't, those are not things that you read from the books alone. It comes from a depth, of the heart. So you've talked about your background a little bit, so we're getting to understand where your writing comes from. Although this is something that you said you've done even as a 10-year-old girl, but now as a grown woman. So I'm still, the life happens to you, you know um is it like a memo? Because I'm going to order that book because it was when
Thank you, sir.
I was actually looking. It's This is an interesting story, and I want people to also learn from it. I was actually looking for your husband's profile, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I stumbled. So on his page, there was no contact. There was no way to reach out to him, and I saw your profile. I clicked on it. I saw, oh, she seemed to be doing quite some things, and that got me interested and said, okay, you seem like you might have some great stories to share with us. And alas, I saw that you're an author as well. So, is it a memo? Of course, for those that will be ordering these books, Life Happens to You by Oreofe Adegbo. Adegbo, right?
When life happens to you.
When life happens to you. Okay, yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
sir.
Is it a collection of memos, or just briefly? I'm not saying don't just go deep. Just give us the basics.
Okay, so I would particularly say this is a memoir, because a memoir is like a story of a person written in a book. Uh, this is a book that God inspired me to write. When life happens to you is basically a story of hope in the midst of darkness, a story of light in the midst of darkness, a story of reassurance in the midst of confusion. And so I said a little about the story of my life. And I knew that I needed to say that because when you're writing, when you're talking about something, someone that I respect so much said, my husband actually, my son will say that if you preach a sermon that you have not been through, if you preach a sermon that you have not gone through, if you preach a sermon, you talk about something, a life that you have not lived, a struggle that you have not had, you are a fraud. That's what my husband always say. So I had to tell a little about my story so that people would not see the story as, oh, a motivational, oh, she's just telling us every life happens to you, oh, believe in God. She doesn't even know what I'm going through. So I had to tell a little about my story because in fact, to be honest, that my target audience for this book is actually more of young people, because I see that a lot of them go outside there, a lot of them have the social media is very tricky for them. So they tend to think that every successful person that they see has always had it easy. They seem to think that every person in the spotlight, every person that has this glitz and glamour that they know has always had it easy for them. And so the point of this book is to tell them that if you're going to attain success, whatever level of success that you attain, in fact, there is nobody that you know that has attained a kind of success. I'm not talking about the fraudulent success. I'm talking about real success in God, in life, and in destiny. There is none of them that life did not happen to. There's none of them that didn't go through challenge, that didn't go through problems, that didn't go through trials, that didn't go through issues of life. And in fact, from my own experience and from my study of the scripture, as God laid in my heart while I wrote that book, I realized that our good days are actually an offshoot of the bad days. In fact, our good days are good because we've had bad days. And
Hmm.
so that book is to inspire and let young people know that there's nothing that you're going through, that it's not a phase. You are a work in progress. It's like you're in a journey, you are moving. And like I said in the book, you will not suffer forever. You will not go through problems, so it's a phase. If you don't go through that phase, you will not get to where God wants to take you to. There's so many people in the Bible that we have as example for. Look at Joseph. Joseph was going to be a prime minister. His place in life and in destiny was the palace. Yet his starter pack was the prison. In fact, slavery. then prison. But God needed to take Joseph through that route before he got to the palace. Of course, when he was young, God showed him that he was going to the palace, but God did not show him the route.
Mm.
Just like my own experience, and for every one of us, God can show you where you're going, but He will not show you the route because you know that you will probably panic or you run away. You can even tell God, God, don't bother, I'm not doing it again. God will
Mm.
not show you the route. And so, as you're going through the route in life, know that I have to pass through this phase to get to where I'm going. There is any success that cannot be reduplicated is a fraudulent success. So, real success, you will pass through trial. Young people need to know that there is no such thing as luck. You will pass through issues before you get to where you're going. And so that's the point of the book.
So I presume you also engage in marriage counseling as well, right? Am I correct?
Um,
You do?
not really, sir. I don't
Oh,
actually. Just
okay.
in counseling. I do not. For my safety, my husband is involved in marital counseling, and on few occasions when he wants me to talk to, some people, I do. Even though many times I I hesitate because I believe that, sir, people people only hear what they want to hear. Like
Yeah.
I always tell the sisters in the community, if you come to me for counsel, I will give you two kinds of counsel. I will tell you this counsel that I want to give you. I'm giving you two kinds of counsel. I'm giving you what I sense the Spirit of God is saying and my
Mm.
own opinion, what I sense that you should do. I will also give you the counsel, the one that you want to hear. So I will tell you, go and pick anyone that you like. So that when you go out, you not go and quote. They'll say,
Mm.
Mama Oreofe said, Mrs. Like we see people quote their pastors online all the time. And so my husband always says that many people that are coming for counseling, they just want to hear what you want to say. They know what they want to do in their mind. And so marriage counseling, I'm not sure, but I'm entertaining counseling.
So I heard you say that you were very studious, and you didn't really have time for any other thing other than concentrate. So I want to ask you this personal question: how did you meet your husband? And if you can walk, yeah, so how did this happen?
In fact, it's a very interesting story. I met him at a concert. We went for a friend of mine, a guy. We were learning instruments together. Back in those days, I used to play the guitar. It was when I was in secondary school. I used to play the keyboard and
Oh,
play
okay.
the drum set. I told you my dad is a pastor, so my dad does not believe
Oh,
that there's anything a boy can do that a girl cannot do. So if
okay.
all the boys in the church they are doing like they don't want to serve God, my dad will push me there. I learned keyboard at the age of 13 and drum set at the age of 14. So I was already
Do
playing
you
at
still
that
play
age.
do you still play keyboard? Do you still play the keyboard?
No, not
Okay.
anymore.
Oh,
so so we went for a concert at Go We Do It Ministries, and after the concert, people would say hello, hi, how are you? So he just said, okay, come and meet this brother of mine. He's my big brother, and he was like, okay, how are you, sister? That was how we got talking. So that was how we met. That was how we met, and in fact, this was while I think at that time I just got admission. That was the second time I got admission. That was after I'd stayed home for like 3 years. So it was at that time when I was about entering the university. That was when we met. We were friends, and so that was it.
and you've been married for how long now?
We've been married 4 years plus.
4 years. Okay. Oh wow, great story. So and your ministry as well started 4 years ago, if I get the numbers
Yes,
right,
sir.
right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So um if you look at it from our kind of society, for most ladies, they get within certain age range, there comes pressure from the home. Okay. We've seen sisters that are, in fact, at 30, it seemed like, it's almost is over, or technically for, but I'm not saying that is, we've seen some are even at 40, right? But I'm just saying that, the pressure that comes from homes, especially when a lady gets to a certain age, usually maybe after they've graduated, maybe some that graduated like 23, 823 or whatever. So in your own case, did you have that kind of pressure, coming from your family background, or was it just something that you felt at this time? I would presume now, if you take the 4 years ago, that would be like 20 something, six, if I want to believe, right? Or how old were you when you got married? It was about,
I was
okay.
trying to
So
say.
okay. So how was it for you? Because we need to share this experience with those that are in that position now. What is it like for you?
Okay, for me, I don't have a parent that pressure you to do anything. My mom and dad believes that God's timing is the best, and so they don't pressure us for anything. I have a sister that was still trusting God for. My younger sister, my main younger sister. She doesn't even, she's not sure about getting married and all. But my mom is not, so she's just praying about it, and there's no pressure from home. I got married at that age because I was ready, and this this was a brother. This was a man that was ready as well. That's even much more important. In fact, I think, let's be honest, I think he was more ready than I was. Yeah, so and that's very important factor. You don't want to get into marriage and you are later hearing that you were the one that rushed the process. It's important. The man is the one starting the family, so he should be more desperate to want to settle down with you than you. So I wasn't pressured. It was just the right time. At 26, at 26, I I I just finished service about 6 months prior to that time. So I had a job. It wasn't paying much. My husband had, a source of income. It wasn't paying much, but we knew that God was leading us to start a family. And when we got married, there was nothing much. In fact, we moved into a beautiful environment, but nearly an empty flat. But God is faithful. It wasn't even up to 3 months. We furnished the entire flat, and that's been from one testimony to the other from there. So I guess I just knew this was the time, and my husband too knew that was the time. In fact, we had postponed our wedding like a year before, because there were so many issues. Like we had another person in the family that wanted to get married, and then COVID came. In fact, so we just had to just do it that year. Let's just get this over and done with. And here we are today. Glory be to God.
So what are common mistakes you think, young women make, especially, from your own perspective? What are common mistakes that you think they make, especially in terms
Ah,
of, getting started? That's what I'm saying. I've argued. We can argue that it is not a must for some people. So, but just from your own perspective, what do you think are common mistakes that you think?
okay, so there's a lot of mistakes that young ladies make before they get married. But I'm just going to highlight two that is very important that I think can sum up everything that I want to say. Number one, and this, of course, this applies to both single brothers and single sisters, bachelors and spinsters.
Hmm.
Many single people would regret. Okay, let me not use that word. Many single brothers and sisters would wish they had spent more time When they get married, they will wish they had spent more time investing in personal development and spiritual growth.
mm,
I tell the sisters in our community that one of the biggest reason why women have regrets in marriage is that they will realize that when you get married, you will realize that the 24-hour in a day is no longer your own. Especially for ladies. I'm a
mm,
mother. I'm a mother of one, although many people think I'm a mother of two because my cousin, my son's cousin and my son, they are very close. So she's always with us many of the time. In fact, for the holiday now, she's with us. So they're always together. So I'm always
mm,
catering for the two of them many times. So when you get married, you'll find out that you don't have it will, especially for that phase when you're a nursing mother, when the kids are still young,
mm,
you will realize it will look as if you don't have time to pray, you don't have
mm,
alone time, you don't have time to read the Bible, things that you should have done when you were single. I don't know how our sisters got this mentality from where they got this mentality from, that it is when I get married, I will now start serving God. I will now start fulfilling purpose. I will now start
mm,
living a life of impact. I always tell our sisters in the community, a life of impact that you are not living when you are single. A life of purpose that you're not living when you're single. Serving God that you're not doing when you're single. Reading, studying the scriptures that you're not doing while you're single. Praying, interceding for your life and destiny. And you're not doing while you're single. You're not doing it well. It's in marriage that you want to be doing it well. You're deceiving
mm,
yourself. If you see anybody, any woman that you admire, that you look up to, or that you know from afar, that looks like God is helping them, they have a success they've attained spiritually, physically, mentally, or in their career, it's because they see what you are seeing is just the offshoot.
mm,
They've done their background work when they were single. I believe this applies to many women of impact and men of impact because this is my own story. If you ask my younger siblings or people that are close to me while I was single, they will probably tell you that I'm the most boring person on earth. I don't have time for fun. I don't know. So when I was single, I didn't know what God was preparing me for. I didn't know that a day will come. I will have a community of sisters that will have to mentor, that will have to raise, that will have to train. I didn't know that a time will come when I will be a speaker that I will have to be going for. I didn't know. I didn't know all of this will come when I was single. I did not know. I didn't even know that. I mean, because my husband becoming famous in a drama ministry happened after we got married. Nobody knew him when we were cutting or before we got married. It wasn't really known. So I didn't even know that all of this will be happening. I didn't know. I was raising a family where my husband and I would one day be in the spotlight. I never knew. I just knew that while I was single, I'd always been focused on the future, journeying into the destiny. I'm either studying or I'm praying, or I had this maybe like a guardian angel in my mind that I had people around me that was always saying, relax, calm down, chill. But I had this thing in myself always told me, you are made for more. You need to prepare. You need to do this. You need to do that. I was just doing my own. I tell people, if you think, I tell our sisters at the community, if you think Mama Oreofe, the time that I have to study the Bible now and to pray now is not as much as the time I had when I was single or when I just got married to my husband. My husband and I were laughing at ourselves last week. I remember when we first got married because we waited about 10 months before I conceived my first baby. So my husband was like, when we first got married, that's a new no. We'll walk, we'll stroll around down the estate, we will do prayer walk. At times we'll pray in the rain. We
mm,
had we invested so many time praying for this marriage. We had that time studying the scripture and doing everything before the kids came and everything.
mm,
So I tell them, whatever you see me do now, see, this one is just a presentation. I have done my preparation several years back.
mm,
I have done my preparation several years back. Sometimes I tell the sisters, if they give me a topic to come and preach on, I have my journals, because there are some of us that we worship God, not we don't really, we may not really worship God through songs. There are some of us that we worship God through journaling, through
Hmm.
meditating, through reading the scripture. That's how we worship God. That's how we connect to God. I said there's barely a topic that I've been given to come and speak on that I've not written a lot of scriptures on. I have a lot of diary. I have a lot of books. I was just being myself. I was just, serving God on my own. I didn't even want to be in this. But anybody who knows me well knows that I don't like to be in the spotlight. I've been on social media for over 13 years. I didn't start being intentional about what I do until last year. Until last year. So I'm not the person who is seeking for attention or wants to be in the face of people. It's not even in my personality. So one of the mistakes I think young people make is many of them do not spend enough time investing in personal development and spiritual growth. That's the summary.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you yielded to the call. We would not have the opportunity of talking to you if you did not put yourself out there and to be able to influence more. Because with this, you'll be able to reach out to a lot more people. And it's good that you're writing. And these books are going to be very very, very good for growth, personal growth of people. So I know you've been doing these teenagers and fellowship, teenagers and
Young
the
sisters
young
fellowship,
sisters.
yes, monthly fellowship.
Okay, so what is the more, without throwing out too much information, what is the most absurd story that you've heard? I'm sure you made mention about one, which is the um those girls that were involved in lesbianism. What is the most absurd story that you've heard?
Ah,
Is it
sir, I don't
if
even
it's
know
not if
it.
it's not
You
something that
know
you can
that
figure out?
it's not something that I can say, but there's a lot. I'm an educator. I
Yeah.
work with I work with the state government. I teach in a public secondary school, and so that alone, being a teacher, automatically you're a counselor. There's nothing you can do. Iṣẹ́ ẹjọ́ ló gbà, wàá máa ro
Hmm.
ẹjọ́ ni from one to the other. And so I think I've had bizarre and absurd stories more at work than the sisters and the teenagers that we mentor and counsel. I've had bizarre stories. What do you say about a woman who wants to remarry, but the husband tells her that when I marry you, you cannot bring your children to my house. And the woman goes to rent an apartment for the children, girls
Hmm.
and boys, and she leaves them there. And she goes to marry the second man. And she leaves her kids alone to go and
Hmm.
marry another man. What do you say about that?
That is terrible.
It
That is really, really
really
terrible.
very, in fact, I think when it comes to weird and absurd things in my line as a teacher and as a counselor, ah, I have pity for parents. You realize that most of the time the fault is with the parents. You will hear things and you'll be like, because especially in public school today, we always my boss will always say, wọn kàn bí wọn kalẹ̀ ni, àwa là ń bá wọn wò wọn, Ọlọ́run
Hmm.
ló ń tọ́ wọn. They just the parents that they don't even know, they know nothing about the kids. Very early in the morning, 5:30, father and mother, they've gone out of the house. They know nothing. They come back late at night. They know nothing about the children, nothing about their welfare. They are going through issues, nothing about their academic performance. Or what do you say about a man? A, a man that fights the wife using the
Hmm.
son. telling us that the son telling us that you are doing everything that you can for him. And this boy is in SS2. And the last time you bought books for this boy was when he was in GSS1.
mm,
What do you say about that kind of a man? What
mm,
do you say about that kind of a man? Different kind of weird stories, parental neglect,
mm,
parental failure, parental neglect. We see a lot, we hear a lot all the time. And there was a day the school where I was working, the private school I was working before I got the job with the state government. This man came to school. Hey, anytime I remember that thing, my head is always spinning. This man came to school, dragged this woman, almost, tearing her clothes into shred, beating her in public. Who is the woman? Ex-wife. What happened? You have warned her to stay away from your children. That one comes to school once in a while to come and say hello to those kids. And he beats the woman to the extent that, this is the painful part, to the extent that the son, the first boy, the boy started displaying, I don't know what I will call it. I don't want to call it mental. The boy was thrown off balance. Daddy, stop beating my mommy. The boy started rolling on the floor. Said it was a gory sight. It was a gory sight. Every time in fact, there are so many times I reach out to my staff from the other school and I ask after that boy. Because so many things, especially when you work in school environment, so many irritating things that you see. Irritating things that parents do. Sir, that would be all. I can't even say more.
You see, that is a government thing. So the government empowers the educators to report to the police. I understand the situation of our government. Okay, doing that, that person goes to jail. Yeah, I know
Mhm.
Lagos State government has these abuse something whatever where you report,
Yeah,
especially
they
for
do.
they do. I'm not
And
sure
it's
about your.
functional.
Yeah, it's functional. Yeah, they do. They send people to. They deal with people there, and I'm not sure if for your state has that. Um.
I'm not sure. I'm
Okay.
not sure if Oyo State does. It's probably not effective, or they're probably not doing their work as they ought to. Because if they're doing their work as they ought to, I mean, we educators will be aware. So
Mhm.
Oyo State, not really. I'm not sure.
Mm. Wow. So your husband, I won't go into his own story, because I'm going to bring him here, hopefully. So going by what you do, writing, do you have any other hobbies that you indulge in? I'm sure you mentioned that being an educator and with your ministry as well. Is there any other thing that you do on the side aside being an author? I think you wear many hats. You're a content creator.
I hear people
Yeah.
say this a lot. So
Hmm.
honestly, I hear people say this a lot, and many times I try to, correct that. People think I do a lot. I don't do a lot. God, I'm sure, sir, that you remember the story of the three servants that the master gave 5 talents, two
Yeah,
talent, and
yeah,
one
yeah.
talent. God has
Hmm.
not given me plenty talents, just two
Mm.
talents. I don't have more than two talents.
And what are
Speaking
what
and
are what are
writing.
singing and writing?
Speaking and
Okay,
writing.
speaking and
Everything
writing.
that I do with my life
Mm.
centers around speaking and writing. Speaking, public speaker. Speaking, I'm a teacher. Speaking, teen counselor. Speaking, voiceover artist. Writer, I write as an author. Content writing, copywriting, editing. So it's still on that too. Speaking and writing. So that's why I don't do too much.
So when did you discover this speaking? When did you discover that it seemed like people want to listen when you talk? When do you realize that?
Ah, when I think it was around the time when I just get admission into the university. There was this non-governmental organization, Royalty Hub. Uh, it's like a non-governmental organization where youths meet and discuss issues. So the president then just took interest in me, just said, "Oh, you're a good speaker." In fact, I'd never heard it before. I was like, "What does that mean?" And I think I'd not spent, I'm not sure I'd spent up to 3 months. We meet every Sundays, just 2 hours. I'm not sure I'd spent up to 3 months. I was made the Baroness, and then later I was made the Duchess. To say you have a good speaking ability, you can speak well, And then when I now proceeded to the university, of course, I studied linguistics. So when you study such course, it helps your I think it's one of the things that, helped my writing and my speaking skills. Of course, I did mention earlier in 200 level, I volunteered as a departmental press. That's Linguistics Student Association Press. And so I was a pressman for 3 years in University of Ibadan. 200,
Hmm.
300, and 400. In fact, in the final year, I was the managing editor. I was the managing editor for my departmental press. So, all those things, I guess I didn't even know, sincerely, I didn't know these days will come. I've always just been the type to prepare myself. I've always just been so I was just we're volunteer. We had people in the press, they would just be doing anyhow. In fact, it was more or less like we had about 15 members, and out of that 15 members, there was like three of us that were functional. The editor in chief, the assistant editor in chief, and I, the managing editor, will be the one to do the write-up, will be the one to do the editing, will be the one to do the printing, will be the one to do the pasting on the board. And we're doing that every week. But I didn't know I was fine-tuning my writing skills and all of that. So in subsequent years, shortly after I now finished from University of Ibadan, I often hear people say, "Oh, you speak well." I didn't even know it was even a big deal. Yeah, I just talk. Oton say, "Oh, you speak well." You say, in fact, at the point I just think myself, "You speak well." It does not even bring money to your pocket. Shortly after that one of my conversation with the Holy Spirit, I didn't even know there was such thing as a voiceover artist. I had never heard it before. It was just one day, it just occurred to me that you can profit from these speaking skills. And that was how I even started voiceover.
What are some of these voiceovers that you've done that maybe that can resonate with us? Do you want to mention one of them?
Okay, I've done several voiceovers. I do biography. I do jingles. That's
On the radio.
advertisement.
Okay.
Yes, people come to me personally, and then of course they take it to wherever. Maybe they want to use it in church or on TV or on radio. I do advertisement and announcement. I do IVRs. That's interactive voice response. I do
So no,
audio
on that one, that I you said IVR.
IVRs. Yes.
Could you
The
walk
number
us
you
through
have
what?
dialed is switched off. IVRs, that's an example.
Okay, and
Yeah,
the
so
and you also talked about
ebook,
books, the books that read by
ebook.
several.
Yes, those are samples, examples of voiceovers that I
Okay.
can do.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there are some of it that I've only done once
Okay.
for people. There are some that, of course, uh, voiceovers like advertisements, announcements, maybe a church program, and biography. Those are the ones that I do on a regular. Those jobs still come better than the rest.
Wow. 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 So now, from your own experience, how can people discover? there are people that have like you said, you just made mention, you said that you have two talents, and these two is what you have used to build up to this level. How can people discover what they got? You said you did not see this coming, right? How
Yes,
can
sir.
people discover? How can help people, help my audience? How can they discover what they got and how to eventually own their skill on that particular thing based on your own experience?
Okay. I'm not sure my answer will be straightforward, but I'm just going to try. To discover the skills and the talent or the abilities that God has given to you. Two things. Number one, what are those? What is that thing that comes easy for you, that you find it easy to do? For example, if I have to speak or I have to write, I don't need to go to Google. I don't need to be thrown up. It has come natural for me. It's already a part of me. I'm giving
Mm,
myself as an example. What is that
mm,
thing that comes easy for you? Is easy. You are the one that thinks it's easy. Someone else cannot do it. In fact,
mm,
the day I knew that writing was a skill was, in times when I was in University of Badon, that we're doing our project, because I was also a librarian when I was in UI for my
mhm,
departmental, So people will come and tell me, Rafa, please let me vet this thing, please let me check this thing, please let me edit this thing. I was always wondering, why is that? What's so special? And then I will edit it. And you might, it's not those things, man, you may not even know that that they are talent, because they come so easy for you.
mm,
Now, the fact that they come easy for you does not mean that you will not sharpen it and go in there. Now, number two, another way for you to know is, what are the things that people tell you that you are good at? Because that was how I knew I had speaking skills. I didn't even know. I knew I had writing skills, but I didn't know I had speaking skills. It was people that let me know that I had speaking skills. So you say, oh, you speak so well. Oh, you speak so beautifully. Say, yeah, what course did you study? I studied English. Say, no wonder. Me, I'm just talking. It's not
mm,
that. So, what are the things people commend you for? People say, oh, you do this thing so well. So, those are the two major pointer, that you can use to, yes, oh, these are my abilities, these are my skills, these are my talent. And then to now profit from that skill, from that talent, there's the place of, which I said earlier, personal development. Personal development. You have to sharpen it. Remember that last servant, sir.
mm.
Remember that
Yeah,
went to bury the talent. You remember what
very
the
good.
master told you? You should have even put it in a bank. You should
Yeah.
at least do something with it. You
Mm,
just buried it. So
mm,
if you're listening to me right now, you're watching this, if you have something that you can do, an ability, a skill, and you're not doing anything with it, you are like that servant with one talent. You are
mm,
burying your talent. You are
mm,
burying your talent. If you're not doing anything with it, you are burying your talent. That's why the graveyard, the cemetery is the richest place on earth, because that is the place where many people, they did, it's not even that, it's not that they did not it's not that they did not pursue their purpose, they did not
mm,
even discover it. They
mm,
just live life as it came, and death came, and every abilities and skills, all the books that God said they will write, they did not even discover, not to talk of write. All the songs that God said they will sing, they did not even discover, not to talk of sing.
mm.
And so that's it.
In rounding up, I've made you stay up very late. In rounding up, how did you come about linguistic as a course? Why not engineering, sciences? I mean, I'm sure most
Ah,
parents would just
so
say
my
you
math
are going
skills
to
is
be a
very bad.
lawyer. Mm,
I always tell people my math skills is very bad. There was no way I was going to do sciences. Right from time, my
mm,
mom had always known that my abilities was in arts. Because from when I was young, I always pay attention to newscasters, journalists. I loved novels. When I was in secondary school, I could have 90 in English and have 39 in maths. It was
mm,
that bad. So there was no way I was going to do sciences in the first place. And so like I said earlier, I'd always wanted to study mass communication. But when I lost that admission and I put into UI, I didn't want to stay home. I didn't want to risk it. I spoke to the Reverend of our church. He said for me to be on the safe side in Faculty of Art, after law in Faculty of Art, we have communication and language arts is more like the first most competitive. After that is English. Then after that is linguistics. And then I thought, okay, linguistics, communication and language art, English, they are, related
Mhm.
courses. So
Yeah.
let me just go for linguistics to be on the safe side. And when God was going to do it, I had the cutoff mark I had was the exact cutoff mark for linguistics. So
Mm,
it wasn't, when I got to UI, I eventually borrowed from communication and language art department. I eventually borrowed from English department. So there's really no difference at the end of the day.
mm. Great story. Great story. You want to share your handles with us? Your Facebook. Do you have a YouTube page?
I have a YouTube page, but it's on it's on that check for
Okay.
now.
Okay.
So yes, sir. So my active page is Instagram and Facebook. So I am Oreofeoluwa Adegbo on Instagram and on Facebook, Oreofeoluwa Adegbo. On TikTok, I am Voice of Grace. My TikTok is just for voiceovers. So I
Okay.
am Voice of Grace on TikTok. So I think that's all.
All right, our audience, please go and order this book. Because when I clicked on that on your Facebook page, it took me to your WhatsApp to make an order for that particular for the book. When life happens to you, make sure you order the book. Is it online other than just your WhatsApp? The book?
I've not. My other books are online, but this particular one is not online yet.
Okay.
My editor traveled out of the country while we were trying to, bet this book, and so it's not been easy for her. She's just new in the US and she's working like 13 hour a day. So we've been having those issues. We're still going to work on that, but for now, anyone who wants the copy of the book should just click that link. I'll attend to them.
Okay. All right. There we have it. Mrs. Oreofeoluwa Adegbo. Thank you for gracing this interview. We really do appreciate you. And that's it. That's a wrap for it on this particular episode. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.